Welcome to the Art Against Mental Illness podcast. My name is Alex Lovelace and this is my podcast about the healing powers of art for artists, art lovers, the art curious and anyone with an interest in mental health and well-being. I'm not good at transitions. Well, I should say that my ADHD brain loves transitions. My autistic brain really hates them. And so I find them quite confusing periods. So I'm going to talk about transitions a bit today. This is because I'm currently going through one. I'm sitting here in my new studio by my new house as part of a move that I neither wanted nor asked for. I won't go into the details of why I find myself in this situation today. There are previous episodes where I mentioned this a few times. I won't bore you with it anymore. But I've had to move house and I've had to move studio, and I'm recording this from my new studio. So you might hear some traffic in the background, we might hear the odd voice. My last studio was in my garden in a place in the countryside that was much more isolated and quiet than it is here. Here I'm right near a local high street, and the walls of this place aren't very thick, and currently reading 25 degrees on the thermometer. This is an upstairs part of a 2-floor studio with skylight windows all the way across, which makes the light absolutely spectacular, but it means it's like a greenhouse. So I'm sweating and trying to figure out how I'm going to construct an episode for my podcast, which at least to myself, I committed to do weekly. Since I spent most of the last week either preparing to move or moving, I haven't had time to prepare a well thought through, nicely scripted episode. So I'm going to let this one wander a bit. And I think that's appropriate given the subject matter. And hopefully you'll find it interesting, or at least, soothing, enraging, insightful. I don't know, come up with some adjectives that seem to suit your mood after this, and by all means tell me about it. So, back to me finding transitions troublesome. At the very least, after a transition, like a house move, but I even find this the case when I go on holidays, but starting a new job is a very big one. Or maybe you've just had a kid, maybe you've had a bereavement, or anything that changes your life significantly, even when it's very positive, can be quite wrenching and very stressful. So I think that these are the moments when we need the things that keep us centered and the things that keep us sane and calm, the things in your life that you can hold on to that give you, if not a sense of pleasure, but certainly a sense of either belonging or familiarity, or take you out of the new world that you're in. And I think they're really important, and that for me is obviously my art. But even then, it's been very difficult to use that as an escape route over the last week or so, because I had to move my studio, I had to move all my art stuff, and it took a while, and it left both sides, the old studio and the new studio, in various states of disarray, and it made it impossible and less fulfilling to do my art because of that. I can pick up a piece of paper and a pen at any point and start doing some sketching. There's plenty of ways to continue to create or be creative when you don't have your studio or your office space or whatever it is you feel that you need. But it's not the same to me, and it sort of ignores the core of why I do what I do and why I do it in the way that I do it, which is partly the sort of mindful, stimulating creative element of making things, making paintings in my case. But it's also the way that it necessitates isolation and facilitates isolation in such a way that I can block the outside world to the degree that I need to. And people know that when I'm in my space and I'm doing my thing, that they need to leave me alone. And that's absolutely vital to me. I would find a way, I think, of making that work, regardless of what situation I'm in. And if it sounds like I'm complaining that I've gone from one situation where I had a big old studio to another situation where I have a big old studio, then please understand that I'm not. I feel incredibly blessed to be where I am. But where I am is not the same as where I was. and I will make this my home for whatever time we're going to be here, and I will make the most of it, and I think this is going to be absolutely incredible. But this transition is hard. Any transition is hard. Even as simple as I want to paint a picture, so where are my brushes? I sat down and started painting last night and went to dab my brush in some water, and the water's not there. And where's the pot? Where's the pot that the water goes in? Oh God, it hasn't made it over yet. Some stuff is still over in my old studio. And so this is not a hard problem to solve. I have lots of pots hanging around the place. So I just went and found another one, but obviously then there's no water source in this studio, so I had to go and get that. And my flow was immediately blocked. It's all fine, but it is something that will break my concentration and make it harder for me to do the things that I need to do to centre myself. And of all the times I need to centre myself, it's in the middle of a move. Of all the times that it's hard to find the space to do that is in the middle of the move. And these little bits of friction of not having the things that you need around you almost seems like every time I want to do something, I have to go and set the thing up that allows me to do that. And if you're in a position like me where change is especially hard, then this stuff really mounts up and it adds up. And I think that everyone experiences this, and I think some people thrive on it even. And half of my brain, I think, does. The process of setting up a new studio, figuring out where to put things, it's really a process of the ADHD side of my brain, problem solving and enjoying the new things and new challenges and new stimulus, and trying to please the autistic side of my brain, which wants things just where they should be, where they're supposed to be. And this is quite a positive process in that sense, because my last studio, for example, I never really got set up in a way that I was happy with. I was constantly moving it around, and I suspect that will be the case no matter where I am. But this is a nice opportunity, a new space to rethink how I've got things and how I want them, and what's going to be most conducive to me working. And what I'm doing here is fundamentally to try and create a space where my surroundings disappear, where they are less and less important to me, and I can focus on the art and the things that I do in here without distraction, because distractions are just inconveniences in your space that stop you from doing what you're doing. If you're a writer and you're sitting in a cafe and you've got your headphones on, the fact that there's lots of stuff happening around you probably doesn't matter. If you've chosen that space, you've got a cup of coffee and that's where you're happy, you can either tune out or drown out the sound via headphones. Then you can be very creative, and none of those distractions or that might pose distractions to other people are really distractions. Distractions like weeds, they're just a normal everyday thing that's somewhere where you don't want it. And I think that to have a happy, productive, creative space and creative practice that is conducive to good mental health, then your things need to be where they need to be. You need to have an environment that is set up so the types of distractions of do I have to get up and walk across the room or go to my house or something to get this thing to allow me to do something I want to do? Am I going to be disturbed if someone just going to walk in and start talking to me while I'm doing something? And these things matter. The lack of these types of irritations, distractions are important, as is making the time that you can spend in your creative space actually being creative. These things are absolutely essential to enable the therapeutic value of creativity. And that's what I've spent my last couple of days doing. I've got some plants up in here. I've got this space is much bigger, and although it's not got some of the amenities that my old space had, so I have to think through how I'm going to account for that, but these are small problems. And given how house moves have been for me in the past, I think I'm actually coping pretty well, and I think my creative space is almost as I want it to be. And that's great, because the rest of my life isn't. My house looks like someone turned it upside down. A good portion of my stuff is still at the old house. Long story, but we'll still be in possession of that house for a little while longer. And we have to sort of find our feet in the local environment, new neighbours, new garden, new space. The house is totally different. It has a totally different feel. It might seem a little bit, selfish maybe, that I spent time setting up my creative space before fully getting my house sorted. But I really needed this space to be sorted out so that I could recenter myself and get myself back in the right frame of mind so we could do the house properly and we could do it in our own time in a way that really suited us. Plus, I'm not the only person sorting the house out, whereas I am the only person sorting my space out. And so I can't just go in and make all the decisions. My wife might have something to say about it. It's a bit of a team project, takes a bit more organising. Now, I think that this is all first world problems. And I feel amazingly blessed to be in this position. But it's not just my house, it's my whole life. You know, I'm unemployed at the moment. I've got to figure out how we keep going. We still have to eat. And I'm in a position now where we knew we had to move house and we focused on doing that. And now I've got to figure out what else I'm going to do, what I'm going to do next. And that's the real battle that I'm gearing up for and why I'm trying to get my creative space how I want it. Because maybe out the other side of this, I'll be blessed enough to be able to do more of this. But one way or the other, I will block out a part of my day every day for the rest of my life to do this stuff in my space. And I will use that time to charge my batteries so that I can tackle all of the other stuff that I've got to do. And I think that is massively important. I think that if you're going through transitions, especially things like house moves or having a kid, I think the mistake that a lot of people make, which lands them in hot water, is that they let the things that they need, their self-care, fall away. Because that's not important anymore. What's important is baby. What's important is getting ourselves established in a new house, and we've got to do some building and decorating and all this stuff. So we don't have time for doing the things that we need to do. And this is a podcast about art therapy, and I'm assuming that if you're here, that is one of your ways of recentering and balancing yourself. It might look like it's a bit of a put it to the back of the queue chore to get your creative space in a good state, or to create at least an environment where you can get moving on this stuff again. It might seem like a selfish thing that should go on the back burner, and I would urge you to not think about it that way. I recognise that in some situations it's just not possible to transition in a way that I am. And if you feel guilty or bad about doing this, I really, really wouldn't. If you rely on art for your mental well-being, then it's absolutely essential that you continue to be able to find that space when you are transitioning. And this works for me for things like going on holiday as well. I find holidays ridiculously stressful. I always used to say when I come back from holiday, I need a holiday to recover from the holiday. And that's partly because travelling is stressful, and family all locked up in one space together for a week or two can be a little bit incendiary, especially if you have a family like mine. But also, my stuff is gone. I don't have my creative space. I don't have all my stuff that I need to do what I need to do. So I have to try and find some little microcosm of that I can take with me. It's about being able to carve out that mental space to be able to express myself and to zone out and to have a place where people will leave me alone. I have to have my headphones, and I have to have at the very least some pencils and some paper so that when I'm on holiday I can relax. And that's how I relax. My ultimate holiday is really to be left alone for a week in my studio to just create. If holidays really are about relaxing, then that's how I would want to do that. I can't think of a better way of spending my time. Although, given that it's at least 25 degrees, so I don't know what that is in American temperatures, but it's pretty warm and getting warmer in here. And I'm in rural Scotland, very warm for this part of the world. And so I might as well be on holiday at this point. I feel like I'm sat in the middle of the Mediterranean, except I've got no swimming pool. And if I was on holiday, I would probably be sat in a corner trying to find some shade with my headphones on, hoping that everyone will leave me alone. Anyway, I won't rabbit on for too much longer. If, like me, you're going through a transition, you have my sympathy. And if, like me, you're the type of person that finds these things very, very difficult, you need to make sure that you look after yourself. You need to make sure that you have your space to escape and to recenter. There is never a more important time to find those spaces than in times like this. If you're planning for a house move or you've got a baby on the way, make sure you also plan in the opportunities and the facility to do the things that you use to center yourself. Make sure that you've got access to your guitar or your piano or whatever it is you use to make music. Make sure that you've got a place to go with your laptop or whatever it is to use to do some writing. Make sure you've got some creative equipment to go with you so that you are able to express yourself and find your space. And then talk about this with the people who are with you in whatever that transition is, and make sure that they understand what you need, when you need it and why you need it. And I think you'll find that although it might seem like you're adding some extra stuff into the process that isn't necessary, you'll find that it will have such a rejuvenative effect that you'll see that afterwards how absolutely necessary it was. And so don't feel guilty about it. Don't deprioritize it. I urge you to keep going and do the things that you need to do. And when you come out the other side of it, you will feel really, really pleased that you did it. I think that's all I'm going to say for today. Next week, I will attempt to find the time to do something a little bit more formalised. I don't know what I'm going to do it on. I've got such a long list of subjects I need to cover. I can't wait to get on with it. As per usual, if you want to support me, if you like what you hear here, please like it on whatever platform you're on. Please rate it if you've got that facility. Tell your friends, your dog, your mum, a random person on the street. Tell them to come and listen to my podcast. And if you want to contribute at all financially, I'm on Etsy. If you want to go and buy some artwork, Alex Loveless on Etsy. But probably the easiest way to support me financially, other than sending me a suitcase of cash, is to support me on Patreon, patreon.com/Alex Loveless. There are various plans on there where you can give me money monthly, and I know there's tens of thousands of you out there, so if you all went and gave me £1 on Patreon a month, I wouldn't have to go and get a proper job, and I could sit here in my studio talking to you lot all day, every day. Wouldn't that be nice, eh? Come on, make it happen. I'll see you next time.